Well, this here is the all-new Toyota Glanza, and yes, I know that you're aware that this car is basically based on the Baleno. It's basically a rebadged Baleno with the Toyota logo in front, but I thought, why not give you a refresher course on one of India's best-selling hatchbacks of all time. So let's get started. Well, so if you have been waiting for this part of the review, I have good news for you, and that news is that the boot on the Glanza is really nice and wide. It's a much bigger boot than its main rival, the Hyundai i20, so that is something which is very good about it. And there's minimal suspension intrusion as well. The only thing is that there's a huge loading sill, so you'll have to load in those big boxes as well as bags if you are going to the airport, or if you're of course shopping at Big Bazaar, you'll have to load in the stuff like this. You can't just slide it in, but you can forgive it because the boot in itself is nice and generous. And that mother-in-law joke today, I'll not crack it. Well, so I'm in the back seat of the Glanza, and if you are someone who sits in the back all day long and wants his driver to drive around and take all the stress of driving, then you'll enjoy this place, because as you can see, knee room is more than sufficient. In fact, you can have a toddler playing here with you and you'll be happy and he'll be happy walking around, but don't do that, it's unsafe. I'm just trying to explain things to you, so don't say you said it so you're doing it, because that's not a good thing to do. But these seats, as always, have been adjusted for my height and my driving position, and my height for reference is 5'10", in case you have forgotten. So if you're 5'10", 5'11", and your chauffeur is also the same height, you'll be okay. Even if you're about 6 or 6'1", headroom is more than sufficient. Knee room is really available in loads over here. The seats themselves offer you good cushioning. The support for your underthighs is generous, and the backrest angle is also very good. There's a tray where you can keep your cell phone, wallet, and also there's a 12-volt charging point. There are no AC vents at the back, but don't worry, because the throw of air from the front vents is really strong, and the windows also almost go all the way down. There's a bit of it which doesn't go down, but that's quite okay, because you sit like this, you don't sit like this, so that's quite okay. You'll be quite okay when you climb up to Shimla and want the windows down and you breathe in the fresh air. Overall, it's a great place to be in the backseat of the Glanza. I'll give the backseat a strong score of 10 out of 10. Well, so here inside the cabin of the Toyota Glanza, and the quality is quite good. It's at par with its main rivals, which include the Hyundai i20, the Honda Jazz, as well as the Maruti Baleno itself. So the quality is very similar to all those cars. The seats are very good in terms of comfort. The support for the lower back is excellent. Support for your tall and lanky legs is also very good. And the layout and the overall theme of the cabin is also very sporty. It looks nice and very cool. It's all grey, but that grey monotony has been broken by the color on the seats. You get this blue coloring on the seats, which breaks that monotony of grey and black. Inside the cabin, the gauges look really cool, and of course you get a plethora of information in the center gauge, which is all digital. Things like how much torque you're using, how much power you're using, as well as the hybrid system's battery, how much the charge is in that battery, and stuff like that to keep you busy and engaged on that long highway trip. In terms of the equipment, you get a couple of airbags, you get ABS as well, and you also get this nice touchscreen system, which is very nice in terms of the fonts. It's easy to use, the intuitiveness is very good, and it's just one of the better systems out there in the market. It's full of color, it's very well lit as well, even on a bright day like today. What I'm trying to say is that the cabin of the Glanza is a nice and happy place to be in. It's a very positive feeling cabin, and you'll really enjoy spending time in it over those long trips, or even when you're driving this car in the city. Well, so here I am driving the Toyota Glanza, and I have to say that this car will simply put a smile on your face every time you take it out for a spin, and that's because of the engine on this car. Now, this car today we're driving is the 1.2 petrol, and it is by far the best petrol engine on any car in the hatchback space. This is the K series engine, of course, from Maruti Suzuki, that Toyota are also using in this car, and they haven't changed anything on the engine. No changes to the mapping, no changes to the ECU, nothing at all, and that's a good thing, because in terms of drivability, it's always been a great engine. In terms of responsiveness, in terms of overall refinement, it has been the benchmark in this segment, and it continues to remain so even on the Glanza. What you really like about it is the way it delivers its power. The power delivery is linear. The power starts coming in from a relatively low RPM, and it just loves to rev. This engine is a rev happy engine, rev it all the way up to its red line of 6,500 RPM, and this engine will not complain. And as I just said, it's an engine which simply delivers performance, fuel efficiency, refinement. No matter what you ask of it, it delivers on all fronts. So it really is an all-round engine, and it's something that'll put a smile on your face. While talking about the driving dynamics, it's a familiar place to be because the driving dynamics are very similar to the Maruti Suzuki Baleno. The steering wheel has decent feel, decent feedback. It's not overtly heavy, so you will not tire yourself out, even if you do, of course, go on a long drive. And if you're stuck in the city, even then you won't tire yourself out. The gearbox is light and accurate with very accurate throws. The clutch also has a nice and light action to it. So it's a very good car for people who drive in the city. Now, one thing that Toyota should have changed on the car, and they didn't, is the side view mirrors, because the side view mirrors have always been a big sore point with me on the Baleno. They are really tiny and really small, and you have to look around just to be sure if there's something behind you. So that's something maybe that Toyota should have changed, and I think they should change it because that will make it a very good car overall. But I'm just nitpicking at the moment. It is a nice package to drive in the city as well as on the highway. Now, if I had to describe the performance of the Glanza in one word, then that one word would be nippy. The performance truly is effortless and nippy, and that's because the engine loves to rev. It's a rev-happy engine. It's a very responsive engine, and it is an engine which will put a smile on your face. The gearbox also is a typical Japanese unit. The throws are light, they're positive, and the throw action also isn't very long, so you just move around your hands like this and the gears change. The clutch also has a nice and springy action to it. Well, now in terms of the suspension setup, the car will soak all the bumps quite well. Sometimes the sharp crevices might enter the cabin, but that's quite okay because most cars at this price point do offer this same kind of setup. That said, on the highway, this car does feel very reassuring and does stick to the road like a leash, and it feels a whole lot more stable than your last girlfriend ever did on the highway. In the city, some of those bumps and potholes might enter the cabin because the suspension has been tuned slightly on the firmer side, so some of those bumps and potholes might enter, the crevices might enter, but it's not something that can be termed as uncomfortable. Well, what makes the Glanza so special? Well, it comes with a very roomy cabin, especially in the rear. It drives really well, and it comes loaded with a lot of key features. But the biggest thing is that the mild hybrid versions of this car are a lot more cheaper than the Maruti Suzuki Baleno, on which it is basically based. In fact, it is the Baleno with a different badge. So the mild hybrid versions are slightly cheaper than that car, and that makes it very good value. So what I'm trying to tell you is that go to a Toyota dealership, drive this car around, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it as much as I have enjoyed it today and as much as I've enjoyed the Baleno over the years.